Hey everybody, how you doing? We're looking at this Israeli-Iran situation, which is really sad. For decades, well, Netanyahu, but the Israeli government and their supporters have been accusing Iran of getting ready to either develop nuclear weapons or to have the capability to develop or to make some very quickly. We've been hearing this. It's been going on for what, 20, 30 years. 20, 30 years. It's within 6 months. It's, 2, 3, 4 weeks away. And of course, you got the talking heads and the U.S. main U.S. mainstream media going along with this, parroting the same lies and propaganda. It's sickening, you know. And this thing with this negotiations between the Trump administration and Iranians, and I hear people here at Scott Ritter and some others say that the Iranians were lulled into believing that they may be able to strike a deal. You know, I would hate to think that the Iranians, leadership and negotiators would be that stupid, and maybe they are, to think to put their guard down. They say, well, they were bamboozled, and they let their guard down. Well, that's not very, you know, effective leadership of any nation. With all of the extra sanctions, with all the threats, it's been out there in the news that Diego Garcia, America had heavy bombers there. They moved them in. Trump ordered non-essential Americans to leave from the embassies and other installations to leave the area. And Iran and the Iranians are still. So we're looking at the Sunday, which just passed, to continue these meetings. They got to be, to be that. I don't know. I guess inept to believe this, that you're going to make a deal. There's no deal was ever on the table. The European Union was putting pressure on Iran. Trump threatened any countries that were buying Iranian oil. Of course, it was targeted towards China, that they would face additional sanctions. Uh, Look at what's going on in Gaza. Our peaceful president is watching what's going on in Gaza, and without a care in the world, talking about it looks like a demolition zone, a demolition area, and maybe it needs to be turned into Riviera of the Middle East, of the Mediterranean. This isn't a person that cares about others, and especially uh, Arabs and Muslims. But anyway, this talk about what Marco Rubio claims that, oh, we didn't know anything about it. Be real, be real. The Israelis got officers in the Pentagon, for crying out loud. They know what's going on. You know what's going on. You've got people there. They've got people over here in America. You know what's going on. And they sit up and lie to the American people. And more people are going to die. More people have died. When is enough enough? Okay, when is control and power enough? It's never enough. It seems like, for the Israelis and the Zionist supporters here in America. I think Israel has a right to exist, but there are limits. You can't just launch and lie about your neighbors, and then look at what's going on in Syria after Assad fell. Russia was there, and Iran. Of course, Iran were the bad guys for supporting the dictator Assad, but nonetheless, the same head choppers are now running that country. The president, Trump, lifted sanctions on a terrorist organization. This is insane. And Israel has conducted about 200 strikes against Syria since Assad fell. And those people, the head choppers in Damascus, don't even complain about the airstrikes. And there's reports that the so-called this new president of Syria said that Israel can use its airspace as it wants to strike any targets that it wants, inside or outside of Syria. Iraq is weak as water. They're not running their own country. America has control of all the air bases. So this whole thing about treaty, even on one particular platform directed at the Iranians, I had said 2 or 3 times, "You're crazy. What are you groveling?" Steve Witkoff comes over, and people want to do photo ops, but they grovel. It was, it's common sense. These people have nothing in your favor in their design. They want to control your oil. They want to control your country. Syria's under control. Lebanon's under control. The Lebanese government and Israel have decimated Hezbollah, no matter what anybody says. Um, Gaza's done. Jordan's next. Jordan's sitting by. And I want to ask the Saudis, what's to stop Israel from just taking your oil? You're sitting around weak as water. You're part of the Great Israel Plan, okay? And the only thing that Iran has in its favor is they do have a strong missile force. You know, we heard talk of Iran having the Russian S-400s. There's no proof. The Russians haven't made a solid statement. Neither have the Iranians that they have actually purchased or acquired the S-400. They had S-200s and S-300s, Russian-made, old ones, and some of the homegrown missiles that Iran made. And it's so funny that the missile technology actually came from Israel when the Shah of Iran was in power. New York Times reported that back when it happened. And so Iran, took that and ran with it. So they've increased their capability. And then I hear recently, what was it, yesterday, that Trump announces that the U.S. controls the skies, but they weren't supposed to be involved now. But anybody who believes that this wasn't part of the plan is just a clown or an idiot. I'm looking at all the YouTube channels, and people have a right to their opinion, and certainly I have a right to mine. But all of these talking heads saying, well, maybe Trump didn't know about it, and Netanyahu outmaneuvered him. That's nonsense. That's nonsense. Trump's not the type, and if you don't know it by now, you won't know it. Trump's not the type to be slighted by anyone. They're in it together. They're in cahoots. Trump tells Iran to surrender. I don't think Iran's going to surrender. They're not going to bend the knee to Netanyahu or Trump. And especially when you're claiming that it's the nuclear program you're going after, but you're hitting news agencies, their headquarters, you're killing scientists, and the Israelis sitting up there screaming, look at what the Iranians doing. They're knocking down apartment buildings. Well, guess what? You guys started it first. You hit apartment buildings in Tehran and other cities and residential areas, going after generals and stuff. These guys had families and children and grandchildren in the same home, but the Israelis didn't care about that. It's always boo hoo hoo. Look what they've done to us. Now, we heard a long time ago from some of these talking heads as well that are on some of these channels dealing with Hezbollah. Oh, Israel's not going to cross the border. Hezbollah won't allow them. Or the Hezbollah leadership is deep down in the bunker. Well, they got Nasrallah deep down in the bunker, 8 or 9, 10 stories down. They pounded and pounded and pounded till they got him. So don't say that it can't happen. Hezbollah is basically defunct because the corrupt Lebanese leadership, the president, they take the suitcase full of money. They're going to do like they're told. And Lebanon is so corrupt. Doesn't matter what party gets in there, it's going to be corrupt. It's terrible. But anyway, getting back to Iran. It's funny. So many of these people. I was looking at Kim Iverson yesterday. I like her. I like her show. She's real sharp. But she, talks about the unprovoked attack and the lies made on Iran for this attack. But yet, in the same paragraph, she'll talk about how they treat the woman in Iran and how the government is just so oppressive and all this. You know what? There are tourists daily that are landing, maybe not now because of the war, but land in Iran. They land in Israel. They land in China. Everybody's got a phone. Everybody's got a camera on the phone. And you can see people living good lives in Iran. Not everyone covers their hair in Iran. It's been years and years since they've been forced to, but some do out of respect for the culture or for their religious beliefs. But these people, they're under no more thumb than we are in America anywhere else, because you hear the same nonsense about China. And baby, there are people, the thousands landing all over China, taking videos of everything. Oh, the government suppresses. Now my butt, they suppress their cameras and videos all over China, all over Iran. Okay, there's no government that goes unopposed. Look at the protests in America in the cities against Trump. When they say no king protests, do you see them? I mean, this is for real. Okay, and I don't believe in Democrat or Republican because they're both corrupt. But if you look at the protests in America, in Chicago, New York, look at Los Angeles, daggone turned into riots. And you talk about the Iranian government is opposed by the people. Yeah, there's opposition in every country from their government. There's no one that's just, right on down the line. Everybody is goose steps and lockstep like they did in Germany in the 30s and 40s. No. All right, everybody, there's no free press, says Kim Iverson. There's no free media. As she telling a story about an attack on the media headquarters in Iran with the reporter standing a block away from the building that's burning, but there's no press, there's no free press. Sure there isn't. Press TV is going on. Press TV, you can see right in America. I watch it on YouTube. Not on YouTube, but it's in my options when I go on the internet. So to sit up and say there's no free press, there are people from all over the world that go there and visit, that have relationships with these people. Okay. But getting back to this Israeli thing, okay. Listen, I think they bit off more than they can chew. I don't see they told the mullahs, yeah. Well, guess what? You got the same version when you got who's our ambassador, Mr. Huckabee, and you've got the Jewish supremacists that are in Israel, Tel Aviv, or Jerusalem. So, everyone's got that going on. But to go ahead and attack and kill people, and they want to sit up and whimper and whine, and of course, America, so many people. If you look at Lindsey Graham or for one, was it Tom Scott? I forget his name, but anyway, I think he's from Arkansas, possibly. Former military guy, or Pete Hegseth. These people are chomping at the bit. The one thing about this that really bothers me, all these people claim they believe in God and they're Christians. Where in the Bible does it tell you just to go and launch and attack and slaughter? Then possibly, if you look at the journal of the British Journal, that talked about possibly over 100,000 in Gaza that have been lost. Okay, what religion other than Satanism says that's okay? Yeah, we seem to have lost our mind. There are people, so-called Christians and patriots in America, that are applauding these attacks on Iran, and Iran has done nothing to us. A few slogans: "Dead to America, dead to Israel," and so you want to strike and kill everybody there. Anyway. Iran had made many, many threats over the years. Most of the people that the Israelis killed recently with these airstrikes, the military personnel, have said, we promise a crushing response. Well, I've been hearing that. We've all been hearing that for a very, very long time. Well, as what the Iranians call the arrogance, if the arrogance ever attacks us, well, the arrogance has attacked you. And now Trump is claiming that the U.S. controls the skies, So you're either going to, what do you say, surrender? So that's what you're going to have to do. Either surrender or launch those missiles that you got, okay, and quit playing around with it, That's all I can say. Israel has been brutalizing and bullying people in the neighborhood for a very long time. And, sometimes people need to get their comeuppance that they so rightly deserve. And Iran, if you don't want to end up like Iraq or Syria or Libya, then you need to step up and quit making threats, either do it or get off the pot. I don't want us to get involved. I don't want us to be involved in any wars. I don't know, I guess I vote libertarian. I'm kind of a pacifist. I believe in self-defense at the home, though. If someone's trying to kick your door open, light them up. But if someone's not bothering you, like these guys, I'm going to get off track from what these guys with these diesels big diesel trucks. And I saw one with his peaceful protesters on the sidewalk, not just holding up signs. And this guy throws the diesel, so all the black smoke, and his people cheering him on TikTok. That's childish and idiotic. Okay, there's no reason for that. But these people, those are the people that'll cheer on a war against Iran. Had no idea, no clue what Iran's about. Okay, all they do is look and see Fox or one of the other networks and eat it up, slurp it up like the idiots they are. And I say it, they're idiots. Okay, I think that this Israeli induced war against Iran is going to end badly for all parties, U.S., Iran, and the United States. Okay, Trump again making the bully threats that, well, if they harm any of our people, they'll see a reaction from our army that's never been seen in the world before. You know, we shouldn't be over there in the first place. Leave those people alone. Get our troops home. Okay, let them rebuild America instead of destroying and tearing down other people's countries. Bring our troops home. That's where they need to be anyway. You know, but anyway, that's about it. It's just a sad situation that, you know, the killing of men, women, and children mean nothing to the powers that be. Europeans are saying Israel has the right to defend itself. Israel attacked Iran, but Iran doesn't have a right to defend itself. That's insane. But these are the people that have voted in power, that have voted into office. These clowns. What do you think this war's costing? Look at Russia. Huh? Some of the Putin apologists and propagandists, you know, act like he walks on water. It costs money to make those 155 shells he's throwing at the Ukrainians. And the missiles that we provide Ukraine, the rockets, they cost us money. War costs money and it costs lives. Okay? I'd like to see this end, but with the U.S. in it and with Trump making threats to evacuate Tehran, a city of maybe 10 million people, or to surrender, that's insane. And I can't see those people surrendering. I think they're down by law. They're going to fight it out. But anyway, I just want to give my 2 cents. And thank you so much. You go. Have a good day. I'm going to post something else probably, maybe right after this one or later today. But I just had to say that. Thank you.